Item 100 is a presentation of the East County Homeless Task Force report. And staff, would you please tell us about this?
Well, I am simply going to introduce the executive. You can stand back up, Eric, because I'm going to introduce you. Eric Lund, Executive Director, President, CEO, and other titles of the East County Chamber of Commerce. As the City Council well knows, the Chamber of Commerce hosted and began over the past year the East County Task Force on Homeless. They aren't done with their work because it's an ongoing type of an effort, but they've reached a point where Eric indicated they're prepared to report out to the City Council and make some recommendations. So, Eric, I will hand it to you.
Thank you very much, Doug. City Council members, Mayor Wells, and staff, thank you very much for having me here today. Again, my name is Eric Lund, and I am the President of the San Diego East County Chamber of Commerce. And currently I've been working with and directing the East County Homeless Task Force. We provided you with a report, including a strategic plan. I just want to mention that strategic plan is continually improving and changing. And so it's going to keep growing as we continue to develop new ideas and solutions. If we go to the next slide. So the mission of the East County Task Force on homelessness is to help develop solutions to homeless problems by bringing all sectors of the community together to implement change and improvement to our current condition through collaboration. And that's a really important point. Next slide. Toward this end, we have gathered all of our East County cities, the county, and all sectors of the community to tackle the problem of homelessness together. Would everyone here that is part of the Homeless Task Force please stand just to be recognized, because I know there's quite a few of you in the audience. These are just a small portion. Thank you. So we've had over 250 community participants participating in over 40 meetings since we started the East County Homeless Task Force. They've all been working to help get people off the streets and onto the path of a better life. And we're working with the East County Regional Task Force on Homelessness as well to share our ideas and to coordinate with them towards helping to improve the effort countywide. We want to be sure that East County has a voice and that El Cajon is engaged with the process. And as usual, our community is coming up with innovative and unique ideas to solve a variety of key homeless-related problems. Next slide, please. So how are we going to approach this whole problem? Our approach from the beginning has been a quality management approach, which is commonly used in today's business environment to tackle tough problems through continuous improvement. Once a key problem related to homelessness is identified, it is researched, a set of ideas is discussed to solve the problem and prioritized, and the teams that implement those ideas and create best practices and check on the results to see if this resulted in improvement. And if it did, then they make it a best practice and continue on. The cycle is repeated as more problems and solutions are found. Next slide. This is really important. We're quite different than the regional homeless task force in that we have a bottom-down approach. So this model, we have 10 self-directed teams that are cross-functional. That is that the people on those teams are all from different parts of our community. These teams report their findings to the director, who seeks to ensure that the teams have the resources they need to be successful. And the director reports to local officials and the steering committees the results and the resource needs of those teams. Next slide. So you can see the team topics that we identified early on in the process. And that was during our first 3 meetings as a task force group. Following are the key recommendations and requests for support from the City of El Cajon to help us to solve our homeless problems. This is the result of many meetings, and each of these teams and the solutions they have developed to tackle their area of concern in El Cajon. Next slide. And I'd like to point out that there are many additional actions and resources being applied through these teams that are not part of today's presentation. And that's because those teams may be solving some of those solutions or having some of those solutions solved through the private sector or through service providers or it could be issues that relate to different areas of our region. Next slide. Okay, so let's get to the ideas and recommendations from our teams. First up is Team 10, and that's the Task Force Management Team. This team is responsible to help define the best management processes and organization model to make the East County Homeless Task Force successful. First, the team is recommending someone to replace me as director. Sorry about that. Just kidding. The task force needs a part to full-time position to attend this director position, would attend the team meetings, follow up on scheduling, coordinate requests, and communications. And this is a critical position to the future success of this effort. The director position would report to the president of the chamber, that would be me, and I would report that, the results of things that are going on, to the task force steering committee, which would be made up of all different segments from our community. So, for example, that would be the faith-based community, city officials, police, so all different sectors would be represented in that steering committee. The self-directed teams would continue to drive solutions to our homeless problems. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So here's the result of our marketing support team. They've produced a new sign to deal with panhandling, which is a pretty big problem in the area. And this sign would be potentially in public places if it was adopted by the city of El Cajon. So we put this up for your consideration. The listed website could be East County Homeless Task Force as it is there listed, or it could be the city's website, and then you could list the different charities that people could donate to. And that's the idea behind that sign. This sign is $45 from a professional city manufacturer of signs. Obviously, there's the cost of the pole and installation in addition to that. But those would go into places where typically it's going to be city-owned land, places like off-ramps and in medians and places like that. So it's a smaller sign. Next slide. The marketing team also addressed panhandling at businesses, which is also a major concern and problem. They've developed a poster program for storefront windows that would be paid for by the store owners. We're just asking that the city consider this space as not being included in their advertising space if it's an East County Homeless Task Force poster. Next slide. This is from our Homeless Outreach Team 3. They're asking that the city support up to 4 spaces for the dogs of homeless people who may want to seek services where pets are not allowed. It's actually a pretty big problem. This would be in the new animal shelter, and we'd like that to be for free for those homeless folks. This would free them up to access to the services or short-term shelters where dogs are not allowed. So that's essentially what we're asking for there. Next slide. Access to Services Team, which is Team 4, that team's developed a new app. Actually, our East County leadership team, which is here today, all dressed in black, and they've got their team shirts on. And I think we handed out some of our bracelets that are promoting this app. The whole idea is to get to homeless folks the services that they can use nearby. And so this team has developed an app that works via text or smartphone. So if they have an Obama phone that isn't a smartphone, it just does text only, it will still work. It'll tell them where the services are that they are looking for. And so it's a really cool app. By the way, that team's getting a lot of interest countywide and from different areas. So it's going to probably take off. It's a really good idea. This has been field tested with homeless folks. And interestingly, of the people they interviewed, it was unanimous that they said they would use the app, and they really thought it was easy to use. It would work in conjunction with 211 and the East County Collaborative, so it would help direct them to those sites that provide a lot of services and service information. But more importantly, it'll help funnel them into the specific kind of services they need. And the intent is down the road to actually make it geo-sensitive so that it'll sense where that person is and then provide the services that are closest by. So that's a really nice feature of that app. Next slide. Reunification Team. This team is chaired by Captain Sean Kelsey, who is here tonight from the Salvation Army. And we're calling this program A Way Back Home. It's a program of the East County Salvation Army to serve up to 100 homeless people here in the East County and counsel and support them being returned to family or relatives. The great thing about reunification is it's the least expensive solution. It really is the least expensive solution to solve homelessness. We will be tracking all the data on success rates, and we are asking the city help with support of up to 20 people out of the 100 at a cost of about $500 each. That includes the counseling. They give them a backpack to make sure they have food along the trip and their ticket to get to wherever they need to go, along with follow-up calls and stuff like that. And we're hoping that the Salvation Army will pick this up not only regionally but also maybe nationally. So it's really a good program. Next slide. Team 2, 3, and 6, which include data, outreach, and housing, have requested that El Cajon have a dedicated housing navigator to help relieve the bottleneck in providing case management, which is really what a housing navigator does, to help relieve, to respond to the VA SPDATs. That's an assessment that's done of each homeless person and is shared county-wide. So it's a certified, you have to go through a certification process to be able to do the assessment. But once those assessments are done, and we've done 200 here in the East County through Crisis House, and Crisis House would manage the housing navigator, who basically is a case manager, and they would take that information and make sure that those people get those services that they need. So the problem right now is we don't really have a housing navigator. So everything's sitting there, and there's not much being done with it. And so that's very important. The cost of that is about $70,000 for that position. Also, it's part of a coordinated entry system process, and that includes getting people into rental assistance, and we're asking that the city help support up to 25 families with rental assistance. Now, cost of that is about $80,000. I know these are big dollar amounts, but that's what it costs. And again, Crisis House would help to manage that and make sure that that happens. The team also requests that the city support finding another motel maybe around if there's one that we decide we don't want to keep running, or apartment building or something that would work similar to East County Transitional Living Center. I've talked to Harold, and he could produce another facility and similar results, which have been terrific, I think, with our local shelter. The East County Transitional Living Center really helps get people into the workforce, back into jobs. It helps them all the way through, and that's what we really need, is those kinds of solutions. That's really a great service that he's provided. So we would like to see one more of those, because then we could handle more people, and then we think that would be a positive thing. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is Access to Services, Team 4. And one of the easier problems to solve for homelessness is sanitary, conditions. Helping get homeless off the streets, you've got to help them, clean up their act a little bit, right? And this is a portable shower system. It has propane tanks to heat the water, has a holding tank that collects all the water that comes out of the shower. And this particular mobile shower has 3 showers in it, and we found this one. It's available for, I have it on the list. It's $26,000 plus some change. I've talked to our faith-based community, and they are interested and willing to support half of the cost of this, and so we're asking the city to help support the other half of the cost. So that's about $13,000, a little bit more than that. And the way we would run this shower is that it would be dedicated to El Cajon, and it would be operated by the faith-based community, those who donate into the pot to help pay for the balance of it. And we would manage the schedule, the storage, the maintenance. All of that would be covered by the faith-based community. We'd take care of that. So, okay. Team 8 is law enforcement. We've had a lot of great discussions with our law enforcement team. One of the things that we've really looked at is the need for a full-time hot team. We think that would really be beneficial for El Cajon with the increased numbers of homeless that we've had here in the area. So that is a request. I'm not sure what the cost of that is. I'm sure it's not inexpensive. But that's something that we'd like you to at least consider, is adding a hot team full-time rather than just part-time as we currently have. Next slide. Oh, back up, I'm sorry. One other request also, and I've talked to the police department about coming out to the business community and sharing best practices for business establishments as far as lighting and video cameras and window space, keeping free space so you can see what's going on outside, and making their businesses less attractive to homeless, as well as how to deal with homeless situations. Don't always call the police. What are other options? So we'd like to have the police department come out, and the chamber is willing to host a couple of large workshops to really get the business community out in a big way. Next slide. Okay, so this is a summary of the requests from the task force. Again, you can see that these are all requests from the teams that are working on the front lines. These really do represent the people with the boots on the ground that are directly interacting with their homeless population. Yes, the price tag is a bit much, right? You go, wow, that's a lot of money. But when you look at all the different things that we're proposing there, it's really going to put a big dent, I think, in the homeless situation here in El Cajon. And I think it really will make a difference. We wouldn't propose it if we didn't believe in it. So the total ask is for $196,435. We know that staff is going to review it and take a hard look at it. And I'm totally willing to answer any questions that council or staff has. And let me see. I'd just like to thank everybody who has helped to prepare this homeless task force report and our strategic plan. I want you to know that we have another meeting coming up later at the end of this month. We also have a meeting with all of the chairs of all the committees to share their information. So we're doing it in a number of different ways, and we'll continue to work hard to benefit our local communities. And that concludes my presentation. Next slide. Questions?
Well, Eric, before you start, I want to thank you for the time you've put into this. I know it's been way above and beyond the call of duty, and we appreciate it, and I'm sure the citizens of El Cajon appreciate it. I also want to thank all the various people that from all over the city that helped with this really daunting problem, specifically all the people from Connect El Cajon. And I know there's people from almost every organization in town, a lot of just individuals who cared. And I want to make sure you convey to them that we take what they've written very seriously. We're going to take a hard look at it. We're going to see how much of it we can implement, and we would like you to pass on our thanks.
Thank you.
Let me see if there's any questions for you. Bob?
I think that idea of the shower is a great idea. However, I think that instead of having a holding tank hold the water after it's used, I think it'd be smart to maybe figure out some way of having some faith-based organization that could maybe connect to the clean out or something like that, and like you do with the motorhome, and just go directly into the sewer system, because that tank's going to get filled up if somebody wants a half-hour shower or something like that, which should be a long shower. Shouldn't be taken anyway. But
yeah, we currently have a shower that comes from San Diego that comes out here every so often.
Yeah.
And they are limited to a certain number of showers, people that can take showers, and that's it because of that. So that's a good suggestion.
But I think coming next to a clean out at a faith-based organization might be a good idea, so that you don't have to fool with emptying the holding tank all the time.
Yep. Thank you, Bob. I also want to mention that I talked to the Elks Lodge about being a dumping location because they have a dump there, and they said they'd be willing to help out with that. So,
Eric, this is just fantastic work. If the city had to commission this kind of a study on all these criteria, it would be $50,000 or more that we'd have to pay for this. So, way to step up for all of East County, but the people of El Cajon should say thank you, because the people of El Cajon are clamoring, we've got to do something. We've got to do something different. It's the old quote attributed to Thomas Edison, it's insanity to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. So you've given us concrete things to try that are different. That's what's so valuable about this report. My question is, if you had to rank them 1 to 10, not right now, but at some point, I would be interested to know, this is our number 1 ask. This is our number 2 ask. They're all valuable asks. There's no number 10 or last place. But I'd be interested in a ranking of what's really on your heart for those 9 or 10 items. Not right now, but at some point.
They're all important. And the ones that don't cost money, I do right away. But as far as, if I were to rank them, and I won't do it right now, but, honestly, all of those things that we brought up are the key, most important points that I think were brought out of the Homeless Task Force.
Other questions? My question is, have you talked to the county at all about partnering with this? I know they're sitting on a large sum of money, a lot larger than what the cities have.
Right.
And some might argue that it really is the county's obligation to be deeply involved in this. Are they willing to put any money into the project?
Well, they are already. Again, I'm not talking about all the things that are going on everywhere else. So there's a lot going on with mental health and with other areas. So the county is spending money in this area, in this region. But trust me, we're going to be going to each of the cities and giving a similar report. We're going to customize it for each city based on their needs. And we're also planning on going to the county to make a formal report from the East County Task Force, Homeless Task Force. I also am participating on all of the regional task force management meetings, so I've been getting pretty involved with them. Their folks are involved with our group. So there's pretty good cooperation going on so far. And they're actually paying attention, going, wow, they're kind of doing things and making a difference already, and already action plan, and we're still planning and talking. And
I'll tell you, that's the difference between, I've been involved in homeless issues all my adult career, and this is really the difference between what you're doing and what everybody else I've seen is doing, because I've gone to countless luncheons and retreats where you talk about it for a few hours, everybody kind of banters about some ideas, and nobody ever kind of solidifies any ideas. And I think you did a great job of really powering it down and coming up with some workable solutions. I commend you for that.
Thank you. I will mention I sat on the homeless task force downtown for, not kidding, off and on for 30 years, practically. And
so you know
same thing, same thing, right? It's just a lot of talking and not a lot of action, so unfortunately.
Well, it only takes a few people to make a big difference. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions before? Thank you for your report. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.